Welcome to Ocean Systems Technology Review webinar. My name is Larry Compton, digital media expert for Ocean Systems. Today we're going to be going over a number of high-level things in regards to productivity, end-of-year specials, and what's soon to be released. We know your time is valuable, and it can be a struggle to stay abreast of the latest technology developments that may save you time and money, and that's really the purpose of today's webinar. We'll provide a high-level overview of efficiency and capability improvements with a multitude of our industry-leading hardware and software solutions. We're also going to provide information on working with, information on things that will be soon released, as well as how to best take advantage of those things cost-effectively. While we've geared this webinar largely towards our existing customers, I see there are several new names in the list joining us today. So real briefly, a little background on Ocean Systems. We're coming up on our 30th anniversary next year. We're 20 years, nearly 20 years, been the market-leading provider of forensic video solutions, starting with our flagship detective system. A lot has changed since the early days, and we'll be spending a good part of today's webinar discussing the latest developments with detective and particularly Avid's industry-leading nonlinear editor, Media Composer. We're also going to be updating you on many of our other product offerings, of course, including ClearID, Input Ace, a new product in our portfolio from OCOM, and Omnivore Field Kit, what's going on with Omnivore and Field Kit, Quick DME, some of the latest developments there, as well as our high-performance workstation solutions that can save you a tremendous amount of time when processing digital evidence and multimedia evidence. We're going to, like I said, wrap up today's webinar by answering some of your questions live. Those that we aren't able to get to in time, we'll go ahead and take offline, and we'll be providing after the webinar. So with that said, again, Larry? My name's Larry Compton. I forgot to, yes, was that Charles?
Yeah, can we just check real quick, make sure everyone can hear us okay? If they can't, chime in on the question.
Yeah, if you're having any difficulties, certainly feel free to submit a question in the questions panel, and we'll try and address it there. So with that said, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of it. Detective, our flagship forensic product, Detective 7.5 is going to be released very soon. It will be free to those customers with current support contracts. Of course, Detective includes our investigative and forensic filters, Spotlight, Magnify, Developer, Dplex, and Arithmetic. As well as historically it has provided the ClearID color safe levels and color safe curves plugins for working within Avid Media Composer as well. 7.5 will include 13 new ClearID AVX plugins, which we briefly showed early development on at last year's LEVA conference. Many things have moved forward and advanced with the development of those plugins, thanks in part to some of our beta tester community. So 13 new ClearID AVX plugins will be available to you in Media Composer, basically making all of ClearID available both within Media Composer as well as Photoshop. So ClearID 3.3 will be bundled in. Previously, we had the latest 32-bit version of ClearID bundled with Detective. We're going to be bundling the latest build of ClearID and the 64-bit versions, as 32-bit has become, of course, antiquated. Detective 7.5 is also going to include Archiver version 109, our solution for quick, easy archiving of Avid Media Composer projects, everything from bins and projects and attic settings and media, but as well as pretty much any other type of digital evidence. Archiver is a quick and easy solution for packaging all of your digital assets up into one archive file that can be compressed and shared and and moved around very easily that way. It can span across disks and so on and so forth. Can include your case folder files and any type of digital media from any source. In other words, it's not just for Avid Media Composer. Detective also includes Dplex Pro, a standalone tool for advanced deplexing, as well as our antiquated, or I should say our older screen capture utility, DVR Decoder, is bundled in with Detective as well. So again, Detective 7.5 will be released very soon, and that's going to be absolutely free to everyone with current support contracts. We'll talk a little bit more about support contracts at the very end, particularly in the questions and answers panel. A good part of today, we want to show off Avid Media Composer version 8. In my travels teaching throughout the country, I've noticed, and consulting, I've noticed a number of people that have and keep Avid Media Composer in their tool bag and their toolkit, along with Detective, of course, but many of them are running very old and antiquated versions of Media Composer. One of the key things I want to point out right away is that for a very limited time through the end of this year, we have a law enforcement exclusive offer for upgrading from pretty much any version of Avid Media Composer to the latest version, which as of today, the latest shipping version is 8.6.3. 8.6.4 will be released probably within the next week or two. And I'll be showing that today. But upgrading from any version for just $295. So incredible offer that hopefully you're able to take advantage of prior to the end of the year, because it doesn't come along all that often. Media Composer, largely thought of by some people as an analog solution, but obviously it was one of the premier leading digital nonlinear editors. It's always been digital. It's always been focused on digital. Its strength being asset management and dealing with nonlinear editing in a digital environment. Very standards-based. It was developed from the ground up for professional nonlinear editing, as opposed to a number of its competitors and other solutions out there that come from the consumer side and provide a much more consumer simplicity, where they're doing a lot of things in the background and working behind the curtain. So some of the use cases that we use and we see people using Media Composer for to improve their efficiencies are really investigative filtering. So bringing media in to run certain forensic filters, detective, clear ID on media very quickly and easily using AMA or link, as it's now referred to in the Media Composer architecture. But simply, rather than importing, just opening a file in Media Composer, taking a quick look at it, throwing a filter on to see what we can do with various forensic investigative filters. Real-time alignment of multiple sources is a key thing. One of the things that I was regularly overlooking, I guess, in my own workflow many years ago, until working in a different environment with Grant Fredericks at Forensic Video Solutions, where I really saw the advantages of taking multiple sources and bringing them all into Media Composer right away, converting everything to real time, aligning everything, and getting that big picture before we delve into each and every individual clip. Providing that big picture to us from an investigative and processing perspective, but of course also provides the ability for us to provide that big picture to the court and the trier of fact. Covert surveillance redaction and editing. If your agency is doing covert surveillance with cameras from Sony, Panasonic, all of the leading brands, JVC and Canon, Avid has worked extensively with these manufacturers on reading their formats directly into Avid Media Composer. And so with link and direct media access, you're able to quickly and easily bring those files in, do some redaction, editing, whatever needs to be done, and get those files right back out in very quick order. over 1,500, several more than that, LE agencies using Avid Media Composer, which really opens up the possibilities for peer review, multi-analyst work, or even multi-agency collaboration. Avid has a number of solutions, in fact, for just that. You may be familiar with things like Interplay or Media Central Server, but those things really open up the door as far as disclosing and peer reviewing other agencies' work, technicians and analysts' work. Again, standards-based with leading asset management features is really the key. Developing it from the professional production side, bringing it down to a much more easier and friendly interface. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about some of those developments. Particularly those of you that are running, say for instance, Avid Media Composer 5, 5.5, 6, or even 7. Media Composer 8 is an entirely new ballgame. There are a ton of changes that Avid has implemented since releasing Media Composer 8. With 8, they introduced the new Application Manager, which runs in your system taskbar, and the Application Manager provides immediate notification of any application updates, and while you're in support, you can easily download, install, and apply all Avid related software updates right through their new application manager. So definitely advantageous, saving time and money to keep abreast of what's new, what's the latest, so on and so forth. Works very much like Adobe's Creative Cloud application, which is also very handy in that regard, of course. A ton of efficiency improvements, not only within the interface, but within the layout of the interface, and it's extremely customizable. But some of the efficiency improvements since version 8 that are kind of key, or things like being able to just easily hold Alt and copy a clip right within the timeline, or drag a clip up to create a new video track without having to go to the flyout menu or primary menus. Huge improvements on searching, and I'll show you that in the interface here momentarily. I'm going to show you many of these various features, but the search tool has changed and pretty much consolidated, provides a nice consolidated interface that allows you to search all bins, certain columns within bins, timelines, all of that sort of stuff. So if you have projects with hundreds or even thousands of assets within a project, you can quickly and easily locate and find those, whether they're markers, clips, sequences, so on and so forth. So we'll show you that shortly as well. They've also improved search by adding search fields to the various windows. There's a search field right within the timeline. There's a search field within the effect editor. There's a search field within the bin window. There's all kinds of searching options and abilities now provided in 8.x and above. In 8.2, they released background rendering and transcoding, including background effects rendering. So rather than sitting and waiting for the system to cook, you can continue working as effects are rendered in the background, and you can bring up a management interface to see how those effects are being rendered. It opens up in a little browser window, and you can see the status of effects as they're rendering. Favorites bins, which is really cool. So now just selecting a bin and choosing it as a favorite allows that bin to be accessible to any project created on that system. Really cool for things like shared assets from all projects, titles, effects that you frequently use, transitions, any of that stuff that you regularly use on all of your projects, or most of them, can now just be put into a single bin or multiple bins and marked as favorites bins, and anytime you start a new project, there they are. They're always accessible to you. They've also introduced image and media cache settings in Media Composer. So much like other applications where you're able to go in and manage system RAM allocation, which you can do now as well, you can go in and set your cache sizes for thumbnails and for the new source browser and videos. So I'll show you that right within the interface. One of the really cool things in the version 8 that is is been talked about by a number of people to me is the custom projects. With 8.4, they released the custom projects, which basically allows us to create our own project presets for 320 by 240, for instance, 352 by 240, CIF 352 by 288, so on and so forth. And they've, in 8.5, released a preset manager so that it's very easy to create all of those and manage all of those. So I think what I'm going to do is flip over and show you that in the interface right away, as well as what's called the new source browser. So if you haven't been in Avid Media Composer since in 8.6, you've got a treat. The new source browser allows us to preview, not only preview within the source browser, but preview within Avid without adding assets to our bins. It also allows us to easily link or import media and control the settings for all of those things. So let's flip over real quick and take a look at Avid Media Composer. So, Avid Media Composer interface. I've got multiple screens going here, so I'm trying to put everything into the one screen for your view. But the typical opening with private, shared, and external projects and locating those projects. New project window. When we pop up the new project window, you're going to notice we have our typical project sizes all the way up to Ultra HD, as well as at the very top of the list, My Presets. So when you create new presets, they'll all be added to this list. So I have a couple here, 320 by 240 at 30 FPS, 640 by 480 at 30 FPS. That's what I named these presets. If I wanted to create another one, let's say I want to create, I can do it here by going to custom and creating the raster size 352 by 240, and then choosing my frame rate 2997 and my color space, RGB, so on and so forth, and then give this a project a name, save this as a preset. So let me save this preset. It's going to come up and say, give it a name, 352 by 240, 2997. So now that's going to be in my preset list. Or I can go into the new preset manager where I can simply add as many presets and manage all of my presets right within one interface, which is really slick. So just simply typing in, changing color space, raster sizes, frame rates, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and cancel out of this. I'm going to do a new project that is 320 by 240, for instance. Let's do preset 320 by 240, 709. Call this webinar, and go ahead and click OK and open that project up. Now, Avid's interface, as you may be aware, has always been extremely customizable. So one of the things that students often say, well, it's a bit overwhelming, kind of like Photoshop. It has a ton of buttons and menu options. One of the main things that they did, and let me just bring this in to show you right within the interface itself, but they've consolidated the file menus up here at the very top. So this file menu has been brought down considerably. You'll no longer see that special menu is gone. Things have been laid out in a much more easy to find method. But of course, we can also remove any of these buttons on the interface quite easily that we don't use regularly, put the buttons in that we do use, so on and so forth. And we have a few layouts that we're working on and developing, and certainly willing to help those that share and help those that want to develop their own. So here's my bin window. One of the cool things that I love about the Avid Asset Management is the metadata information that it provides. I've saved a particular layout that I like to use called interrogate, which has a multitude of the columns that I'm most interested in, including information like the frame count, frame durations, video, field ordering, pixel aspect ratio, so on and so forth. And I called that particular bin layout investigative. And you can just simply go up here, of course, and choose your columns that you want in any bin view, and save those, of course, as a new preset yourself, and then share that preset across devices. You'll notice right away I have this bin open, the webinar bin, but I have the favorites bin located up top. This is where I've already marked a few bins in other projects as favorites. I have one called titles, which includes some opening titles and a lower third graphic, and one called effects, where I've thrown a few of the effects that I use quite regularly for investigating media, developer and color safe levels. So these bins are available and open in any single project that I enter into. Here's that search field we talked about. So if you end up with dozens and dozens of bins, right within the bin view we have the search field. And we also have, let me close out of the titles here, but you'll notice down in the timeline view, down here we have a search field within the timeline and can search assets, so on and so forth that way. But let's do a Control F for the find field and bring the find field over to show you the real power of searching now. For quite some time I had used a third-party tool within Avid Media Composer for searching across all of these various metadata fields and assets. Avid consolidated that and provides incredibly powerful search capabilities now for clips and sequences, script text if you're using scripts for interviews and redactions, and so on and so forth, timelines, markers, settings, so on and so forth. You can even determine the columns that you want to search, and by default in 863 it searches across all columns. 864 now searches just the name column unless you come in and change your default setting in here in the search field. But a very, very helpful and useful tool. So AMA, another one of the things AMA released back with, I believe it was 5 or 6, I believe 5.5, AMA and Link were released, allowing us to bring things in. When we right-click in a bin now, we see the input menu, source browser, which is the new interface for bringing media into Avid Media Composer. And this source browser is pretty slick, allows us to preview all of the media not only within the source browser, but also right within Avid Media Composer. So I've gone through and marked some folders as favorites, and if I just go over to my favorites tab, just those folders show up. And when I'm on those videos, I can simply scrub through the videos. I can change the size of the thumbnails as I'm scrubbing through, so on and so forth. And if we look down at the bottom, when I go down into source browser settings, if I expand this, I have it set to double-click load clips into source monitor. Now, I've got a 320 by 240 project, and I know this file is larger than that, but if I want, I can preview this right within the source browser without adding it to the bin. Nothing's been added to my bin. I'm just previewing that media, and I can scrub through, take a closer look at what's going on in this media. If I drop it into a timeline, then Avid's going to automatically add it to this bin. But if I'm just previewing, it doesn't get added to your project. So a really cool way to quickly preview and access your media files. Allowing you to mark favorites folders, so on and so forth. We also have the ability to link right from the asset or import. We can get right to our import settings, choose what settings we want to use to import, what drives we want to go to, and even what bin we want to put it in. We can choose any open bin or create a new bin when we're importing. Link, we can go right into our link settings, which have improved as well, and now include, probably most importantly, one of the things that we've been asking for a while, are reformatting options when we're linking. So you can set your default reformatting, so that rather than coming in stretched into your project, you might want it center keep size or pillar letterbox as your default when you link to an asset. Now I have a number of AMA plugins in here. What I'm going to do is just grab a 320 by 240 clip here real quick, and I'm just going to, I could right click and choose the actual AMA plugin that I want to import this file with, or I can just let it auto detect by default. If I don't do that, it's just going to auto detect, and I'm going to say link, and that asset will be added to my bin. And because my setting had it set to close that, it closed it right away. So I can open up the asset in the preview monitor. I can V key, drop that asset down into the sequence, and then do some quick filtering by just popping over to our effects panel saying, oh, I want to see what developer would look like on this. So there's developer right there. Pull it down, drop it onto my clip, tell it how many tracks I'm applying it to. There's only one track to apply it to. And then I'm going to get into my effect settings for developer. And what you'll see, let me bring this over onto the other screen. What you'll see is that Avid automatically added a color adapter to this clip, and it's going to tell you when it adds a color or time-based adapter, motion adapter, to adjust the clip to the project rate. And you can use FrameFlex, which was released in version 7, I believe. For those not familiar, FrameFlex allows us to go in and change how that clip is displayed within the interface. And even at what rate, what color space, so on and so forth. So let me click back on my developer effects. So I have 2 effects stacked here. I'm going to take this and apply it to the entire clip. Let's grab the corner here. Just apply this to the entire clip to get an idea of what is in this clip. Now I might want to use pattern remover to do this, or in this case I'm just going to quickly take a look at developer. I want to see what's behind here. Oh boy, maybe hogging up too much memory in my system. I've got Photoshop and a bunch of other things open right now. Let's see. Yep, errored out. Sorry about that. Let's see what happens. I've gone in and got it applied. Oh, it didn't close, so I'm going to go back over to RGB because I want to see that in color, so that I can get rid of a lot of this signal noise really quick to assess what's there, what can be actually obtained from this clip. So another investigative filtering process. And then I can render that clip or just go ahead and apply and close. So that's a real quick overview of an investigative filtering process, bringing media into Avid Media Composer, that new custom canvas features, the new source browser, which is really slick, allowing us to get in and do so many things without consuming system resources and time, importing media, so on and so forth. In fact, I can even go in with the source browser. I have an AMA plugin that we also are able to provide called Media Reactor that allows me to actually deal with VOB files. So I can link VOB files, 3G2 files, so on and so forth, and bring those all right within into Media Composer really quickly and easily. So real quick, before I leave the Avid interface, I did want to show you the Detective plugins that will be added. You're probably used to seeing Detective over here, as well as Detective Clear ID. Under Clear ID, we used to have just the color safe curves and color safe levels filters. We'll be adding those 13 new filters will be available in this next release of Detective 7.5, so be looking for that real soon, and hopefully you're in support and able to take advantage of that. So that's a real quick overview of what's new in Avid Media Composer. Of course, hardware plays a huge role in how fast any multimedia evidence processing happens. So yes, we can run, pretty much any software on any system. but obviously the faster the hardware, the better, the less time processing. Your workstation is basically an employee, if you think about it, and how long it's tied up has a lot to do with how efficient and effective you can be. So having the proper hardware to run multimedia and digital evidence solutions is critical and can save a significant amount of time and money. Our new workstations include new 16-core Xeon CPUs, been optimized for input ACE encoding. Those familiar with input ACE, I'll briefly show here momentarily. If you're running one of our older workstations, like older, pre-2008 roughly, somewhere in there, those area CPUs don't contain the SSE 4.1 instruction set, which Avid Media Composer 8.2 and above require. So you might want to look at upgrading those systems, and Charles is going to be on a little bit later to talk about that. All of our systems have been UHD 4K qualified for years. We're on NVIDIA PCI Gen 3 graphics, M2000, 4 gig, just a default. We can certainly, most of these listed up here are just our default configurations, tons of options available. And this is really key to effective processing. 32 gig of RAM, but we've got 4 other slots if you want to load the system down with RAM. We, by default, all of our systems ship with SSD as the boot drive, the operating system drive, so things load quicker and faster. Default configurations on our workstations include 16 terabytes of local high-speed RAID-protected storage. We also have other options and solutions in regards to that, including PCIe SSDs, so you can get 1,200 to 1,500 megabytes per second read speeds from a single drive. Great for like a swap disk type of arrangement. USB 3 by default. USB 3.1 is now an optional upgrade, as well as Thunderbolt. MDisk, Blu-ray, DVD super drive. So for archiving, if you're using still archiving cases to disk, that sort of thing, these super drives from LG include MDisk capability. Those familiar with the newer MDisk technology, that's certainly advantageous. Dual gig E ports, so if you're bonding your network connections for those high-speed media connections back to maybe an Avid ISIS storage system or the like. We have dual GigE ports, Intel ports by default built into our systems. And write blockers are optional. For instance, in the system shown on the screen here, we have a Tableau forensic bridge and write blocker that was included in this particular configuration. Tableau and WeBTech are both available. Charles, did you want to share some info on the workstation?
You know what? Why don't we just do that at the end? We can come back to the slide and reference it, and then we can talk about the specials that we have put together.
Great. Okay, thanks. And so, I talked about the local scratch disk and that sort of thing, but when we talk about high-speed storage, you probably or may have heard of our SafeAV RAID storage, RAID systems. SafeAV S3 is now an SAS3 system. That's 12 gigabits per second times 4 channels of SAS3. That's, roughly 4,800 megabytes per second. That's blazing fast storage, which plays a significant role in processing, multimedia, regardless of what platform you're using, what tools and solutions. SafeAV comes in 8 or 16-bay chassis. The 16-bay chassis is expandable, meaning that you can grow, your storage can grow with you. So by default, our 16-bay chassis is configured as a 60 terabyte configuration, but you could add up to 15 more chassis to that configuration, putting you up around a petabyte of storage from SafeAV S3 systems. It's complete redundancy, power supplies, so on and so forth, all redundant, built-in hot spares, so when drive failures happen, that drive is replaced automatically, audible alarms, as well as SNMP and STMP or SMTP alarm capability, RAID 5 or 6 configurable, and easily rack mountable. So if you did want to grow into that daisy chain 16-base solution, it's easy to configure in typical rack organization. So great solution, which can also be made available, of course, as network storage. Share it out, share the entire RAID out as a particular share on your network, so on and so forth. So Windows 10, a lot of people still running Windows 7 Pro within their organization. Some I've seen in my travels have jumped on Windows 10, skipped 8 and 8.1 and went right to 10. We are now shipping Windows 10 Pro on our towers and rack mounts. All of our products have been tested and compatible for actually a couple years. We've been testing since prior to Windows 10 release. Avid Media Composer now supports Windows 10 Pro since the release of Media Composer 8.5. That's officially supported. One of the hardware devices that's not supported, I just wanted to mention quickly, is the Matrox line of capture devices, input-output devices. Matrox MX02, which was a very popular one that we still carry and provide for those leveraging Windows 7 Professional. Matrox tools are not being Windows 10 qualified, and so there are a number of solutions out there, including Avid's new Artist DNxIO, which is an incredible hardware acceleration option with direct integration to Avid. And then, of course, Avid's OpenIO solutions allow you to use things from Blackmagic design like Intensity Pro 4K, which is a PCIe card shown down here. That's what I have in my workstation for capturing everything from UHD down to the standard definition analog. So lots and lots of solutions out there. Just wanted to mention that those that are considering going to 10, Matrox's MX02 Mini is not currently qualified. ClearID 3.3 we released earlier this year in June of 2016. Some of the new things with ClearID 3 for those that are still running on the old 32-bit version of ClearID, which is 264 would have been the latest version of ClearID for 32-bit users. ClearID 3.3 is entirely 64-bit, works in all versions of 64-bit Photoshop from CS4 right up through the next couple of releases. We've actually pre-programmed it that way. So lots of room to grow there. We've got the new ClearID 3 interface built in, which I think I'm going to run out of time to get into show, but a quick screenshot of it here. 3.3 is free to anyone in support as of June 1st. And so if you're in support, you're able to download the latest version. I highly recommend it. We've added some additional filters, including double unsharp mask. We've added more channels to the interactive channel selector and made a ton of efficiency improvements, including we are now able to import images and layer stacks faster than Photoshop does by default, and we're doing hashing in that process. So certainly something you want to check out. That improved import function speeds things up. All of our FFT filters have been optimized and improved. A lot faster layer processing. Default settings have been improved on a number of the filters, and we've provided some new export options. So for instance, on our export verification and report and export tab, we've added a new slideshow presenter in addition to the HTML report that documents everything you've done to the image or video within Photoshop. That slideshow presenter now gives you a way to disclose in an HTML file all of those steps that you applied throughout your processing. A really, really cool one-click solution for showing all of your work as it progressed, and then also includes the settings in the slideshow presenter as well. In 3.3, some of the new things specific to 3.3 are we're now able to record ClearID filters as Photoshop actions, so you can save actions for applying to groups of images and stacks of images and folders, so on and so forth. And we've added F11 to bring up the previous function dialog and settings. So if you're working on multiple similar images from the same source, quickly and easily applying the last settings. And also can apply now to video. Now Clear ID filters can actually be applied to smart objects within Photoshop. So when you open videos in Photoshop, convert to smart object, you can throw our filters down and you will be able to run the same type of verification report that you're used to doing with images within Photoshop. So lots and lots of new improvements in Clear ID 3. Certainly, if you haven't updated, I highly encourage you to take a look at those things like importing settings from the ruler when we're correcting motion blur and so on and so forth. A lot faster as far as doing alignment stacks or aligning and averaging, things of that nature, keyboard shortcuts and the like. So Clear ID 3.3, one of the newest products in our portfolio is Input Ace. Those not familiar with Input Ace, it's a workflow tool specifically designed for law enforcement to save time, money, and resources, predominantly geared towards, how do we get past that challenge of dealing with proprietary files, processing, enhancing, redacting, and reporting on them. Real quick, I do want to pop over, I got just a few seconds, so let me pop over to Input Ace just momentarily and see if I can grab some video files. I just want to grab a few of these video files to pop in here and give a quick demonstration to those who haven't seen Input Ace. Input Ace will, we can just drag and drop, and all I did was just drag all these video files in various formats, DAV, DAV1, RE4, so on and so forth. All these proprietary files from DVRs, just dragged them and dropped them right into the Clear ID interface. It's interrogating the file and telling us, well, I can play this. I can parse the stream inside this proprietary container. So if I click on any one of them and jump into the interrogate, I can then start playing the file. I can run reports on that file. I can add frame markers, create subclips. A very, very quick way to deal with proprietary files and even convert those files into standard containers. And since I'm running late, I'm not going to get to show as much as I want, but here's one thing I wanted to show real quick, and that is just getting over to a standard container. So I'm going to add MP4 output here, and then I would just tell it where. I can include the original file name and my output results, and encode this as a lossless H.264. So lossless H.264 means we're not going to change the bit values of those pixel values of those frames at all as we create this H.264 file that can be played back in most of your standard media players like VLC and GOM, so on and so forth. So now you can take these proprietary files, quickly convert them and wrap them up to share throughout the agency. So lots and lots more functionality within Input Ace that if you're not familiar, I'm certainly not going to be able to show today, but the narrative report is just a beautiful a way to quickly and easily mark frames, add information, and create a PDF report complete with those assets in your notes right within the PDF, where you can play those assets within one file that you distributed in the standard PDF format. So Input Ace, definitely look for some updates on that in the very near future as well. Omnivore Field Kit, since I'm running long in the tooth, I wanted to talk real quick about developments with the Omnivore Field Kit. One of the big ones being our HP mobile workstations now on Gen 3. So the G3 workstations, much like our custom towers and rack mount systems, has come a long way. These are not your typical laptops. These are workstations designed to provide mobility and high-end processing, including things like workstation processors, Xeon processors. So definitely want to consider upgrading to a workstation-grade laptop for your mobility solutions. All of the same type of capability, 1 terabyte SSD, primary OS drives by default. We can use M2 SATA drives, Thunderbolt 3 ports, which is really slick with the new G3 systems because they've released the new ZBook Thunderbolt 3 dock, which I just love. one cable provides power and lights up all my displays, my network, my mouse, my keyboard, everything, audio devices. All I've got to do is unclick one Thunderbolt port to connect all of those devices back in the office, fold up that laptop, stuff it back inside my field kit, and go back out and get my recoveries done quickly and easily with the Omnivore field kit. So what are we doing with the field kit? The field kit development, we're going to be releasing a new version, update to the Omnivore field kit and Omnivore software here very soon, which again will be free to those in detective support. We've integrated a new 64-bit capture engine. One of the key things there being that means no more A to D conversion if you're capturing from digital sources. So if you're capturing from HDMI or a digital DVI output source, no more AD conversions involved. We're going to capture or collect everything as it's sent to the display directly rather than screen capturing. We also have an all-new proxy viewer that's scalable, meaning basically that the viewer by default can be resized without affecting the size of what you're actually capturing from that output signal. The Omnivore software updates include the video settings tab. When you're using the field kit now, dynamically updates and changes the fields to show you the signal size, incoming signal size, so on and so forth, all right within the Omnivore interface, and it does that dynamically as you move the overlay. The new viewer supports higher bit depth screens, and we're also including some new information or additional host computer information in our verification reports. Quick DME, we've done a number of things in the Quick DME development over the last year. Has been hard and heavy, and some of the cool things are in regards to player management. Player management capabilities have really improved, including what's called an auto associate feature. For those not familiar with Quick DME, it's our asset management and player manager software. It can be run on a single workstation or shared and leveraged across your entire network very cost effectively. For any type of digital asset, extremely customizable. Some of the updates that are coming soon and will be shown at LIVA include custom fields, auto-expanding and collapsing now within the quick downloader, new derivative workflow. So now we're able to check in derivatives of original assets. We can check out our work, make our derivatives, forensic clarifications, and then check them in as derivatives, and they're easily identified right within the Quick DME interface. So another cool new feature. Player Manager, like I said, the new auto association is really slick. We're able to basically go in and what do we got? About 10 minutes. Let me show that real quick. So the new auto association allows us to leverage the proprietary software to play back that proprietary file. Because look, it's great when we're doing investigative processing and we want to quickly convert and distribute those files in a standard format. But I don't think anyone here wants to go to court and say, I never tried to play that file in the proprietary software. So let me see, I have Quick DME open here. Let me pop over to a proprietary file. This is an AVR file from EverFocus, which we can play within our Quick View player itself, but I want to do a quick association and show this auto associate feature. You'll notice I only have 2 assets in this particular download. I can go in and define the signature for this particular file that identifies it uniquely. By default, it's going to grab those default bytes to do that for you. We used to have to upload manually. Now we have streamlined this process to do auto-associate. So what it's going to first do when I click auto-associate is look within the evidence folder that was ingested. Is there a player file in that evidence folder? And if so, it's going to identify it and auto-associate it to that extension for you. If there isn't, it's then going to look to the local Windows associations on your system. So if you are working on your laptop, had administrative privileges, and installed that player, many times QuickDME can go grab that file, those files for that player, and ingest them right in and to QuickDME and make them self-executing players that you can share throughout your agency. And so now I can right-click on this file and quickly open in the associated player, and it's going to launch that proprietary software to view the file. So just wanted to show some of that stuff real quick. I know I'm running long in the tooth. One of the other big things coming within QuickDME is image redaction, and of course, not much later on, we'll be getting into the audio and video redaction. But the image redaction feature we'll be showing at LIVA allows you to create those derivatives right within QuickDME, redact images in a non-destructive manner, and for distribution, so on and so forth. So with that said, Charles, I know we're running a little bit behind.
You want to jump back to the tower real quick, and we can talk about. So you know, one of the main things we wanted to accomplish in having this webinar was to reintroduce people to, you know, what the Avid can do. It really is drastically different than where it once was before, with the custom canvas, the file linking capability, and just very easily being able to, you know, drop a media file in there, either into the interface or through the media browser. And, you know, like Larry was showing with Developer, one of the real nice powers of that is you can do targeted region frame averaging on a video on different places in the video. Just, you know, slide the video forward 10 frames, go lasso the license plate on the car, and have that instantaneous feedback of being able to interrogate the video like that. So again, as Larry mentioned earlier, some of these longer in the tooth towers that are out there need upgraded. So we put together a bundle. That's the tower system Larry showed earlier, and we've discounted some things to help you get into the new technology. One of the specials was the $299 upgrade from any version of Media Composer, and with that we're putting together a dual 8-core CPU with all the accoutrements, the NVIDIA 2000 that's listed, and the Intensity 4K capture interface card, and with that discounting the Detective, you know, Platinum support contract that gets you your Clear ID updates, your Omnivore updates, that type of thing. And that system through the end of the year is coming in under $7,000. So if that's something you want to get your system updated and take advantage of those special pricings, just email sales@oceansystems.com and we'll all see it, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can with that. There were a couple of questions that were coming in while the presentation was going on. One of them, it says here, is new detective filters, Clear ID filters, have the ability to save out a report in its settings. So one thing that I want to make sure everyone's aware of is any of the plugins that you apply inside of Avid, when you're in the effects editor, you see a little purple plug up in the corner. You can grab that after you've made your adjustments to your settings and drag that into your bin. That saves all your settings for that plugin. So that automatically gets stored in your project when you store your Avid. But if you want to try a couple of different things, or you even have, like Larry was pointing out earlier, in the favorites folder, you have a couple of go-to moves you like that are upper corner picture-in-a-picture type things, or using magnify in certain settings, that type of thing, then you can just drag that in. You can try other plugins, and you can flip between them, and you could share them with other people. It's very, very flexible to do that. But and along with that, you can right-click on any sequence in the bin and print a sequence report. So and it'll give you, you know, how long, how many effects you've applied, that type of thing. So you can. It's not going to look like a Clear ID verification report. But there is a report, yeah, that the Avid will do. So the next question is, love to have separate webinars on all the new stack functions. additions to Clear ID you're discussing, that will be coming out in documentation, and maybe we'll come back and do a specific webinar on that. But we do plan on following this one up with individual. We're going to have the new field kit's going to be coming out. We're going to show that. That'll be like an Omnivore field kit webinar. The new quick DME is going to be coming out. I know Input Ace is coming out with some new stuff at Leva. So we're going to start queuing these up product specific. This one was to try to get everybody caught up, share the specials, and kind of focus in on, you know, what makes Avid so different than the Avid that we would have known of back with Media Composer 4. How do you export a proprietary file from Input Ace after you connect the file to output? You just click the execute button, right, Larry?
Yeah, it's that simple. So those workflows, unfortunately, I had a power problem here, Charles, and I got dropped off the session. So I'm still on the call, but my computer's down.
I see your screen.
Do you? It's still showing?
Yeah, it's on the
That's
top.
Interesting because it has no power.
So
must have just froze. But yeah, so those workflows are very easy to create and execute. I could have processed all of those files into a standard container within like 3 minutes, even on my laptop here. So very quick and easy.
And we integrate the whole solution on our towers and set it up to optimize it using, you know, swap drives and swap file drives and things like that. With the input, and actually any of our products, in case people aren't aware, if you go to our website, up in the upper left-hand corner it says Forensic Solutions, and they're all listed kind of in order of, you know, from collecting to clarification, processing, to the whole quick DME, digital asset management. And in each one of those, there's a video tab, and especially in the Input Ace one, if you go, there's these little short 2-minute videos, and if you just watch the first 3 of them, it'll take you 5 minutes, and it really kind of gives you a great overview to what the product is. But I think there's maybe about 6 or 7 of them listed in total, and that'll give you a great overview of the interface, dropping the files in, processing them, workflows, and doing the whole workflow that is dropping them in, chunking them, adding in your case notes, and then printing them out to a narrative report, which, you know, is a very, you know, if you got to process a lot of video, that's kind of a lot of people's go-to move of what they have to accomplish.
Yeah, and one of the other great things is it allows, one of those output options is MXF, of course. So for those familiar with Input Ace, but those not, you know, we had AVI, MP4, so on and so forth in our output options, all customizable, so you can go in and change the settings on the encoding. One of them is MXF, and there are 2 settings in there currently for MXF, allowing you to go to a 720p or a 1080p project. You know, so you could take any of those proprietary files and encode them out directly to MXF as well if you wanted to, which can expedite, you know, Avid workflow as well.
So here's a question: does the trial version allow you to do so you can get an idea of how it works? So yeah, it's a fully functioning 30-day trial. So if you need that, again, just email us. Let us know that you're interested in a proposal, demo copy, that type of thing. You send that to sales@oceansystems.com. We'll all see it, and your salesperson will follow up with you. Any idea for law enforcement who want to move from Premiere to Avid Media Composer with no existing Media Composer contract or Clear ID Detective? I can get Input Ace on as a separate product. Input Ace is a separate product. You can just get that from us. You can get that. We have a 2-day training class specifically on it. We have our 4-day introductory to forensic video analysis that kind of covers, you know, from Omnivore, Clear ID, a little bit of input, kind of through the whole process. If you really want to become very proficient in Input Ace, you take the 2-day Input Ace class. Moving from Premiere to Avid Media Composer with no existing Avid Media Composer contract. Media Composer standalone, that's a whole different thing. You know, a lot of people have an impression that the Avid stuff is expensive. It's just dramatically changed what's going on. A Media Composer license standalone is $12.95. So you just buy, you know, we get a Media Composer license for you, and set you up on a CPU, and you'd be ready to go.
And after, you know, the updates, what, $2.99 a year, something that, I mean, it's so much different. Yeah, after. So it's just so much different than what it used to be. In fact, you didn't used to be able to buy, you know, Media Composer years ago without buying the hardware, and that's where, you know, that Avid OpenIO was a big part of this, you know, opening them up and moving them forward. But they're very, they're sticklers about standards and performance for very good reason, because that's what they do, and that's why they partnered with us very early on to bring them to the Windows platform. So,
yeah, just to kind of, you know, to take that, you know, the Avid was never an analog system, right? And that's kind of something that's resonated and lingered out there, because when we came into this environment to help law enforcement with their evidence was recorded on tape. The cameras that existed were tape-based cameras. There weren't digital formats yet. So in Avid's space, they created I/O boxes, and their market of the professional video editor, everything has to work reliably, spot on. And so all the real-time picture-in-a-pictures and digitizing it uncompressed, you know, that type of thing, that all took a lot of hardware, specialized hardware to do at the time. But as the cameras have changed to recording digitally, that's where you got the AMA architecture that's been out for since version 4, I think they started introducing this. As the cameras created, DV was the format, right? So you had an Avid DV editor. And then they became, you know, higher end stuff. So there's a film format that's called RED. But Panasonic has their format, P2, Sony has theirs, JVC has theirs. And writing to those standards, so like with your surveillance people that are out and they have a professional camera, Avid just knows what it's all written natively and it's AMA. What's gotten expanded a lot since 8.0 and forward is the stuff Larry just showed you, which is now you can have your own custom canvas size, right? So where they started with the professional high-end market, it wasn't so much multimedia friendly, and others started in the multimedia market and tried to become more professional video friendly. You know, the two paths come together, and now Avid's able to do the custom projects and save the custom projects, and we're going to try to put some stuff together and load some things up on the web page and share with you some of our presets that that we're coming up with. So you should see stuff over the next, you know, month or so where we invite you to do that.
Charles, I can't see the questions panel, but we are at an hour in now, hour and a couple minutes. My system's back up, but I'm not back
into
up with
the questions.
Okay, awesome. I know how valuable everyone's time is, and I hope you found it worthwhile to join us today. I mean, it's really what we're trying to do is save you time and money and keep you abreast of our solutions. So I just wanted to real quick say thank you very much for that, and hopefully we'll be talking with you soon. Do you want to switch over and show, or just the phone number, website, oceansystems.com, 301-476-8015 is our phone number, and sales@oceansystems.com with any sales questions. If you're on our website, right in the left-hand column, there's a purchasing info section. You can generate your own proposals right from our website. So you can get pricing quotes and proposals, auto quotes, right from our website. And those will be emailed to you instantaneously as soon as you click the submit button. It generates and provides that to you. We also have the online store now, which is linked there as well. So if you have a purchasing card and want to go that route, certainly trying to make it as easy for you as possible. So anything else, Charles?
I think we covered enough for this one, and we'll look forward to having everybody back. We'll be sending out, you know, invites for more product webinars. And I appreciate your time.
More specific ones, yeah. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us.
Have a good day.